Hello, April is intense. We did a lot of different stuff. We built a new seedling greenhouse as well as part of the irrigation system. I planted some lavender in the yard and it's beautiful. We also made some climbing aids for beans to grow over the salads, and we planted potatoes into the soil as well as into some potato structure. Was baskets. This weekend is our seedlings market in the farm, and for that we already cultivated a lot of different vegetable seedlings. Also, our tuk-tuk needed some repair work. Luckily, we are experts in welding.
We had quite some luck that our former owner of the farm had a lot of self-made concrete stones laying around. But all of them had a bottom, so we spent an afternoon drilling all of those bottoms out to form the brick wall where the concrete will be then flooded into. Early the next morning we started then pouring concrete, for which we used this home use mixer and the wheelbarrow with which we manually shifted all the concrete to the foundation. From creating the foundation for our first greenhouse, we already have quite some experience in how to do it. Although here it might seem that we haven't put that experience to good use. We are using some metal rods and wooden sticks to ensure that the concrete is flooding down to the lowest level of the bricks. We're also using a saber saw without any blade in it to hold against the bricks and causing vibrations to float the concrete further down. This was the first of in total 3 days of pouring concrete, but this was the biggest pour that we had to do as it was the base foundation. And once again, we are lucky enough whenever there is a lot of hard physical labor, there are enough people around to help us. And so the day continued, mixing concrete, pushing with the rod, using the saber saw, until all of the close to 40 wheelbarrows have been shoved into the foundation. And this is what it looked like after the third day of pouring concrete. We tried to level the foundation to a certain level, everything else will be later on jimped into position, and we'll use some foam in the parts where we still have legs. As there will be a separate video about this project where I will describe in more detail what exactly I've been doing and how I created those boards, we won't spend too much time now explaining that. So we will just roll the time lapse from raising our new greenhouse. There's still plenty to do, like whitening the stones and stuff so on. But for now, that's all we can show in this video, as this is the point where we stopped before the weekend. One of the things in our irrigation system which I desperately wanted to change from the last year is having the possibility to use the lawnmower without unplugging and replugging the pipes. Particularly at this point where the pipe enters the property, it can be a little bit frustrating and replugging it, as you have to draw the pump as well. So we're trying to create a little bridge. Opposite to the first pole, we put in another pole into the ground, and we are running a steel cable between them. On this cable, we put the hose with some zip ties, and next to the whole second pole, we put all of the vents for this system. This year, I want to have the controls for the whole market garden just from this one point, so you don't have to run up and down over the whole market garden when you want to put on and put off some systems. As watering our plants takes a lot of time, I really want to optimize this process as much as possible this year, to save as much time as possible as well, to dedicate more times to things that are not as easy as this to optimize. At the entrance to the farm next to our compost toilet, we have this little hillside which we planned to improve for quite some time, but we never found the time or muse to do it. Now Kata came up with a really nice idea and started along working on it. First, she put those wood pieces on the ground and fixed them with some steel that we had laying around, put some earth or clay in that case next to it, put the plants into place and digged up some compost which she put next to the plants as a fertilizer and covered everything with sawdust. This should prevent the compost from losing the moisture too fast. And I have to say the result looks really good and even better in reality than here on camera. In some of the last episodes you have seen us building this raised bed for our salad. We do have a mixed relation with the salad growth on the farm. To be fair, we never had a lot of success with it. Either it was way too warm too fast, meaning we had the wrong crops, or the snail ate all of it. So this year we decided to plant them in the raised bed. But as you can see, the raised bed is very exposed. That's why I want to cover it or give it some shade with beans. We're using some leftover large pole, which last year have been built as climbing aids for multitude of different cropses. Although they look pretty weird and not everything else than straight, that shouldn't hinder the process and should give a really nice climbing aid for the beans and a lot of shade for the salad. A goal for this project was it has to be done fast, with low cost, and best of it, that the shade produces crops as well. And after 1.5 hours, that includes the planting of the beans, we were done. While me and Marian worked on those beans climbing aids, Kata started to plant the potatoes. As you've seen in the intro, we're using two ways this year to plant our potatoes. One is the traditional way to plant them in the bed, in compost and clay, which is the earth that we work on. And the other one you will say after this is the new baskets.
Our last two potato harvests weren't very successful, so this year we wanted to try something new. That's why we built some baskets to plant our potatoes in. At first I got some fine metal mesh, which we had to cut into size. We tried to use the pliers, but it was a pain in the ass, And then I found out that it was way easier using the angle grinder. The fine metal mesh covers the ground as well as the first 25 centimeters of the basket. For the rest of the height of the basket, we used a 5 times 5 centimeter mesh and attached it to a wooden stick. And on the next day, we assembled all the parts that we cut before and also enjoyed some sunshine. Once the baskets were ready, we filled them with hay and compost. On top of the compost, we put about 7 potatoes, covered them in compost and hay again and again and again. Oh, eine Sitzbank. Lena, wenn dir heiß ist, geh in den Schatten, Schatzi. For each basket, we used a different kind of potato. That means we have about 9 kinds of potatoes this year. And per basket, we have about 3 to 4 to 5 layers, 3 to 5 layers of potatoes. The green can grow outside surrounding the baskets and also on top of the baskets.
This weekend we will have our yearly plant market. And I'm really looking forward to this, as currently every free space is stacked up with young plants. We have planted them in the house and in the greenhouse, and basically outside areas are covered with pots and small plants in them. And as we needed even more space, Nini fastly decided it's time to build a table and got to work. It didn't take a long time until the table was also full with young plants. We have a tuk-tuk, which is driven by electricity, which we abuse a lot. We use it for hundreds of kilograms of compost, which we drive down to the field, and sooner or later something had to give, and small repairs have to be made. Here I'm first stripping all the paint from the metal parts, which I want to weld then. The metal on those blades are really thin, and I'm a very bad welder, as you will see in the close-ups.
Dann mache ich nur 2 Punkte, dass man das noch bewegen kann, wenn es drauf ist.
Haben Sie dieses Meisterwerk schon gesehen? Beautiful!
Although this looks really ugly, it works, and we don't have more time at the moment to fix it. Later on, we will have to do proper repair work. And with that, we reach the end of this episode. A big thanks to all the people who have helped us again, and have a nice day.